He once shot a man twice in the head on Christmas Eve for owing him $1,600. Beat his first victim to death with a closet rod. Strangled men to death. Stabbed, poisoned, shot, bludgeoned, burned, exploded, allegedly otherwise destroyed up to 200 dudes. Known as the Polak, or Big Rich, and eventually as the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski was a 6'5", 295-pound killing machine who worked as a hitman, fulfilling murder contracts for various East Coast mob families and their associates. He also killed other men simply because they annoyed him or reminded him of his dad. He killed to test out new killing techniques. He killed for over 3 decades. He also had a family and a quiet suburban home life with 3 kids and a wife for over 20 years. Today's Timesuck is mostly about the Iceman, and the Iceman is mostly about murder. Extra adult rating on this one, very graphic violence. So get out now if you don't want to hear about it, or stay tuned and get sucked.
You're listening to Timesuck.
What's up, time suckers? Hope you had a good Labor Day. I'm Dan Cummins. Thanks for sucking. Thanks for listening to Timesuck, you sucking suckheads. Thanks for letting the suck touch you. Thanks for deciding not just to rub it around your lips, but for taking the suck all the way in. Thoughts and support today go out to Texas Timesuckers. Going out right now for the fucking Hurricane Harvey. All the damage is done down in Houston and the surrounding areas. Donate if you can to help them out. And be careful where you donate. If you do donate, a lot of scumbags taking advantage of the situation to make a quick buck. Houston Texans defensive legend J.J. Watt has set up a donation fund to help the victims of Harvey on youcaring.com. If you'd like to donate any amount at all, the link is up in today's episode description. And you can also text Harvey 2017 to 91999 to support the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund, a fund set up by Houston's mayor. Link for this also included in the episode description. And I'll be performing in Columbus, Ohio this week, shows in Hollywood, California, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Spokane, Washington, and more, much more coming up quick. Ticket links to the first live Timesuck and more shows in the episode description. And now, let's get to the Iceman. Richard Kuklinski was one of the scariest men in the East Coast Mafia scene in the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s. A world of notoriously scary men. He killed mob bosses, other hitmen, a lot of people who owed money to people that, they should have never borrowed it from in the first place. And he also killed just some random dudes who happened to be, in the wrong place at the wrong time, looking at the wrong motherfucker. And the murders meant nothing to him. Other gangsters described him as cold as ice. He could brutally murder a man and then just happily, eat a sandwich his wife made him. Maybe take the kids out for some ice cream, buy him some new toys. He could kill a man on Christmas Eve and then watch his kids open presents on Christmas morn and just pose for some family photos like all's good in the world. How does someone turn out like that? How does it all start? Well, for Richard, it started, in a nice family in the suburbs of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. His dad was an assistant principal, and his mom was a secretary at a textile manufacturer. Richard, he had 2 brothers, Tony and Jason, and Jason would go on to star as a middle linebacker for Penn State in the early 60s. Rich was well-liked. He was voted best smile, most likely to succeed in his high school yearbook. Loved his father dearly. He'd later say that his dad dying of a heart attack when he was 24 was the worst moment of his life. And he was a bit of a mama's boy as well, and his mom would later visit him in prison, refusing to believe what her Eagle Scout son had been convicted of. He graduated second in his class, enrolled in St. Joseph's University, where he was going to study accounting. He even actually saved a girl from drowning while he was volunteering as a lifeguard for the local YMCA. And then none of that fucking happened. Get out of here. You don't have an idyllic childhood and turn out like the Iceman. Does not happen. No, Richard Kuklinski was an incredibly violent man born into a home of preposterous violence. So let's find out one of the ways you can make a murderer by jumping into today's Timesuck timeline.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
April 11th, 1935. Richard is born to Stanley and Anna Kuklinski in Jersey City, New Jersey, a rough blue-collar industrial city just across the water, but also a world away from Manhattan. It's part of the New York City metropolitan area. Richard was born to a Polish family, and if you know anything about Polacks, they are a dirty, inferior, immoral bunch of subhuman savages. Kidding. My wife is Polish, and her maiden name is Radzyminski. I just like to denigrate her lineage, whenever possible, to potentially get a rise out of her. No, he was born to a Polish family, though, a poor family in a town full of poor people. Jersey City in the early 20th century had a large Polish Catholic population, blue-collar immigrants recently, having just arrived to America. The Lackawanna, Erie, Pennsylvania, and Central Railroads all had stations in Jersey City, and the city was the last stop for, like a whole bunch of produce and other goods making its way east on tracks throughout the nation to then ship off on boats across the Atlantic. Tracks all over Jersey City. The main thoroughfare was actually called, may still be called, Railroad Avenue. While today there's a lot of good white-collar jobs in Jersey City, especially in the financial sector, being so close to Wall Street. That wasn't the case in the early 20th century. It was a lot of hard, manual labor jobs, in an era when workers weren't as protected, from safety and different things and long hours as they are now. The summers are hot and humid. The winters, brutally cold. Lives were hard for a lot of the residents of a bustling little blue-collar town. And it was here that Richard's parents met each other. His father, Stanley, was born in Warsaw, Poland, immigrated over with his parents and two brothers. His mom was Irish. Her parents had immigrated over from Dublin, and they both died shortly after bringing the family to Jersey City. Her dad died of pneumonia, and her mom was run over by a truck in a freak accident. Man, fucking rough luck, man. Dad dies of pneumonia. Mom gets hit by a truck, literally. She grew up in an orphanage where religion was quite literally beat into her by sadistic nuns, and that's not a shot at just Catholicism in general. That's these particular nuns. Nuns, I guess, were particularly sadistic in Jersey City. And Father Hansy McSecret, one of those kind of type priests, also molested her and took her virginity before the age of 10. So fucking rough life for Mom completely. Man, both parents die, orphanage, physically beat, molested and raped, all before the age of 10. That's Anna. At 18, Anna had to leave the orphanage and almost immediately met Richard's dad, Stanley, at a church dance. And they got married in July in 1925. They rented a flat in a two-story house on 3rd Street. And Stanley had a job as a brakeman for Lackawanna Railroad. And then Anna quickly learned that she had went from a bad situation to a worse one and that she had married a fucking Polish demon. Stanley was not a large man, but apparently he was very strong. Strong enough just to kind of, give some people some serious beatings, and he was possessive, jealous. He had an escalating drinking problem and just a violent temper. And he soon began to just beat the shit out of Anna on a regular basis. He'd get drunk, come home, just toss her around like a rag doll. And then in 1929, the couple has their first child, a little boy named Florian. And Florian gets beat too. He'd get hit for wetting the bed. He'd get hit for crying. He'd get hit for crying because he just got hit for wetting the bed and crying. Jesus Christ. And then when Richard was born in 1935, he starts getting hit too. The family was a mess, man. And Anna just, she didn't leave Stanley because of her, the Catholic kind of stigma with divorce, especially at that time. You just didn't get a divorce, so she just took it. Just prayed a lot, Stanley would come home with a proverbial lipstick on his collar. He'd be messing around with some women at some bar. And then accuse her of being unfaithful and then beat the shit out of her in front of the boys. He's that guy. He's a sociopath. According to Richard, when Rich was little, his dad would do shit like wrap a belt around his fist and just kind of punch the boys for sport. Little boys, man. His boys just punch him for sport when he was drunk. And he's not like, pulling punches either. He hit him so hard he'd knock him unconscious. Rich said he'd become so afraid of his father he'd sometimes wet himself with fear when his dad was home. He would just get incredibly anxious just at the sound of his voice. And then, of course, his dad, when he did wet himself, would beat him for that. How do you do that to a child? I guess by just being a true sociopath, just truly incapable of empathy. February 1st, 1941, when Florian is 11 and Richard is 5, Stanley cements his induction into the Father Hall of Shame, into the ring of the worst dads of all time, by actually beating his oldest son, Florian, to death. Hit him one too many times in the back of the head. Kid never got back up. And then the family covered for Stanley, said he fell down the stairs. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine watching your dad, the man who is supposed to be your protector in the world, actually beat your older brother to death? And then watch your mom cover it up, help cover it up. Your mom who also gets beat and also who does nothing to protect you from getting beat. Think that might fuck your head up a little bit? I don't think childhood woes should be taken into account when sentencing adult criminals for their crimes, I don't, but I do think it's important to understand why monsters become monsters so we can do everything we can as a society to prevent more monsters from being created. I mean, in the end, you're accountable for your actions as an adult, but God, man, many of us were given a much, much better moral code to start working with in life than Richard Kuklinski. So with Florian gone now, Rich becomes the sole recipient of Stanley's parental beatings. And not only is he getting beat at home, he's getting beat at school, too. He was a shy, awkward little kid with no real friends, horrible self-esteem. Of course he is. Think about his home life. It makes him a target of bullying at school as well. Two Irish brothers who lived down the street would just beat Rich on a regular basis. And then as Rich got older, the beatings just continued and intensified. And then one day, Stanley actually watched his son run home, running away from the chasing brothers to avoid yet another beating. And then Stanley, being the exemplary father figure he was, whipped Richard across the face with a fucking belt the second he came inside the house. Told him that no son of his was going to be a little chicken shit who ran from bullies. And told him, he better get after those kids. Again, can you imagine having this guy for a dad? If this guy lived next door to me now and I saw something like that, in addition to calling CPS, I would be fantasizing on a regular basis. Like, how can I get away with killing that son of a bitch? How can I get away with just fucking beating him to death? Stanley then demanded, he demands his son goes to fight back. Sicks Richard, on the bullies like you'd sick a junkyard dog on some trespassers. Rich apparently finally unleashes all that pent-up anger that he'd been building up inside of him for his entire horrible life, and he beats the shit out of them both. And then the father of these Irish boys runs and goes and pushes Richard to stop him, get him off his sons. And then Stanley jumps out of the house, runs over, gets in a fight with the dad, and then knocks their dad out. Finally, Rich gets a little bit of protection and some, approval from his dad. All it took was violence, That's the one thing old daddy approves of is putting a good beating on somebody. Well, on September 27th, 1942, a year and a half after the murder of Florian, Stanley and Anna have a third child. Why not bring some more good into the world? Why not, bring some more life into this incredible nuclear family unit? They bring in their first daughter, Roberta, and suddenly and incredibly, the violence stops. And the Kuklinskis, they open up an ice cream parlor, malt shop. They call it Stan and Ann's Milkshakes and Malts. And instead of getting drunk and beating his family, Stanley decides it would be more fun to have Sundays. He preferred hot fudge with 2 cherries, and he liked to play board games with the kids. He'd still get a little twitchy when you made a Monopoly, playing Monopoly, before he did, and then refused to make some trades like an asshole, so everyone has a chance to win. But he kept his belt on, and no one got punched. Yeah, right. The pressure of another mouth to feed made Stanley even more fucking violent. Made him even more, of a mean son of a bitch than he already was. Now he's back to beating, 3 family members instead of 2. And he kicks up his womanizing to just the next deplorable level. Instead of just hooking up with women in bars, he starts bringing women home from bars. Like bringing them home to where his fucking family is. Just comes home drunk. Starts banging these women in the living room while the kids are in their rooms and wife's in her room. Just what a fucking savage. Just a shameless savage. Richard would later say in prison interviews that he began around this time to regularly fantasize about killing his dad. And this is would be one of his life regrets is just not killing his father. He would think about that a lot, talk about that a lot, like he just really wished he would have killed his dad. Dad was just, still beating him so hard that he once knocked Rich out for half the night after hitting him in the head, so he didn't learn from the Florian beating, that you might want to take it easy, might want to work the body instead of the head. Rich was also getting beat by his teachers at school. Just so many fucking beatings. Just getting beat everywhere he turned. He went to a Catholic school that apparently had some pretty ruthless nuns, maybe those same nuns his mom had, and they loved to whack him on the knuckles with a hard ruler when he tried to use his fingers to read, which he was doing because he was dyslexic, and the nuns would hit him hard enough to make his fingers bleed. Because that's how you get a kid to learn. You fucking beat him. When he finally had enough one day, and according to him, he told the nun, "You hit me again, cunt, and I'll break your fucking head," which I don't blame him. The nun ran down the hall, grabbed a priest, who then came back into the classroom and throttled the shit out of Richard. Another beating. Then he came home and he got smacked around in bed by his mom. Told him not to act up in school. Jesus. Okay, May 5th, 1944, Stan and Ann welcomed their 4th and final child into the world, Joseph. And then, with 4 mouths to feed, now at home, father of the year Stan does what great dads, do when the going gets tough, and he just takes off. He leaves. And he starts shacking up with some new lady and just abandons his family financially and completely. And then Anna gets 2 jobs, Anna has to raise 3 kids. She's working days at the Armand Meat Packing Company and cleaning the floors at St. Mary's Church in the evenings. And then Rich also gets a job as an animal exterminator, kind of, not really. No one hires him. He just takes it upon himself to rid the neighborhood of stray pets. More of a volunteer position, I guess, unpaid internship. Young Richard begins to turn his rage from his constant physical abuse he's experienced in life, and he just just puts that on the neighborhood animals. The old you hit me, I kick the dog kind of syndrome. And he starts doing shit like capturing stray cats, tying their tails together with whatever he can, find, and then throwing them over a clothesline and watching them, just tear themselves to shreds. He'd also get gasoline, pour it on stray dogs, watch them run off on fire, beat animals to death with clubs, pipes, hammers. Maybe if a good therapist had gotten a hold of Richard around this time and had him removed from his home, maybe he could have, been reformed and turned into a productive member of society. Or maybe he was already too psychologically damaged. Who knows? I mean, by God, by the time you've reached a place in your life where you're setting dogs on fire, you're probably not going to also, be prom king. Probably not going to be captain of the football team, valedictorian. Maybe you can still be reformed somewhat. Probably not going to be given, a moving speech on graduation night. 8 years ago, I couldn't even imagine delivering a valedictorian's address and getting a full ride to Dartmouth, where, I'm lucky to be studying pre-law and sociology. 8 years ago, I was far too busy just burning Labradors to death and forcing cats to tear each other apart. My, how things changed. No, you're never going to hear that speech, not ever. Richard also turned to crime early in life, initially stealing food to eat, because Stanley, obviously wasn't providing anything from the family, and mom, even though she's working 2 jobs, she's not able to get it done. And then Anna not only does she not condone the stealing, when she finds out, she beats Richard for getting some food for him and his, brother and sister, beats him with pots and pans and broomsticks, whatever she can get a hold of. According to Richard, she once knocked him out with a good shot to the head. Again, the beatings, my God. Shortly after Dad had moved out, Mom had moved the family to a federally subsidized apartment building and some projects on New Jersey Avenue and 15th Street. And the new digs were full of some rough project kids who immediately began to bully the fuck out of young, skinny, shy, awkward Richard, who now doesn't even have his dad around to maybe kind of stand in sometimes. Growing up, it was as if Rich had a kick me sign just kind of permanently attached to his back. And everyone took him up on the offer. One kid in particular who liked to beat on young Richard was the head honcho of some little group of kind of project tough guys, some kids, a kid named Charlie Lane. More on Charlie in just a bit. When Rich isn't getting beat, he starts reading true crime, Pulp Fiction stories, true crime magazines, tales of violent assholes, getting some, violence dealt to them. Unsurprisingly appeals to Richard. He also likes reading about criminals, taking what they wanted from the world, making names for themselves, I get that. Not taking shit from anyone. And this too, again, appeals to him a great deal. So he begins dreaming at this point of becoming one of these guys, one of these untouchable criminal mastermind guys. He loves hearing, how the crimes are solved in the books and articles he reads, especially murder, and begins to dream of, how he could get away with murdering people. There's a lot of people on this list. Dad, is right at the top. And also bullies in his life. Bullies like Charlie Lane. In 1948, when he's 13, Richard decides to fight back, stand up to Charlie Lane and his little thugs. And it doesn't work out for him. He tries, starting some stuff, and then they finish it, and they beat him so bad they almost kill him. They punch and kick, him to the ground, kick him while he's down, spit on him, beat him so bad he couldn't leave his apartment for a week after that. Mom wanted him to go to the police, report it, but he didn't want to be a rat. He already had that criminal mind. Not going to be a rat, not going to talk to the cops. He must have been badly beaten when his mom wanted him to report the beating to the police, even though she already has beaten him unconscious herself. What the fuck? What is that conversation? Hey, Richard, it is not okay, sweetie, what these kids are what they've done to you. God knows when I beat you, I don't keep kicking you once you're down, honey. That's because I love you. You know that, right? I would never spit on you after slamming a frying pan upside your back of your head, knocking my sweet boy unconscious. I'm not a monster like these. These kids need the police, is what they need. Once he's healed, Richard sets out for revenge one night, with the intention of just giving Charlie the beating of his life. Just wants to really, give him a good beating. And he takes a 2-foot closet rod out of the apartment, and he hides outside this New Jersey Avenue entrance to the project he's living in, knowing that Charlie, that's where he comes home, is that entrance. Eventually, Charlie does come home that night, and Richard pops out in the dark, from behind the dark spot he's kind of hiding in. Closet rod in hand, Charlie tells him to beat it, or, he's going to beat his ass again. Rich doesn't budge. Instead, he swings that closet rod, and he hits Charlie right in the side of the head and knocks him to the ground. And then he just pounces, jumps on top of Charlie, and just starts hitting him over and over and over and over. All that pent-up anger from being bullied by his father, his mother, the nuns, the priests, from Charlie himself and other bullies being unleashed on Charlie's head and body. And when he's done, he pops up, starts yelling at Charlie to get up and fight back. Come on, fight back, fight me. And then realizes that he's beat Charlie to death. Charlie, he takes his pulse, nothing's there. And now he's panicking. Now he's also committed his first murder at the age of only 13. He's terrified he's going to be caught and locked up. But then he steals a car using skills he'd learned studying those true crime magazines, and he gets Charlie in the trunk of that car, and then he drives the body a couple hours down to South Jersey. And yeah, I know he's like 13, but he's a big kid. He's a big dude, tall and stuff like that. So I guess he could pass as an adult driving, or not as an adult, but like as a 15-year-old or whatever. So he drives him down there, and then he finds some marshland, and then he remembers, as he's going to dispose of the body, he remembers from the crime magazines. I'm sure he's thinking about it the whole way down, that bodies are identified by like fingerprints and dental records primarily. So after taking the body out of the trunk and dragging it out in the marsh, he finds a hammer/hatchet tool in the trunk and used it to smash all of Charlie's teeth out and chop his fingers off. Then he leaves the body, for animals to scavenge, and then he takes the fingertips and teeth fragments and just kind of, scatters them about another marsh a little ways away. And then he drives home, apparently feeling pretty fucking proud of himself, feeling great. Well, shortly after killing Charlie, he found the other members of the gang, and that had beat him. And while he didn't kill the other kids, he beat the shit out of them as well. And just, really started to realize that he enjoyed dishing out punishment a whole lot more than taking it. And he decided, to never let anyone get away with beating him ever again. After killing Charlie, Rich starts going to school less and less. Over the next few years, soon drops out altogether, starts hanging out in some pool halls in nearby Hoboken, a notorious mafia kind of hotbed, a town that, has claimed at different points to have more bars per capita in its history than any other town in America. And yeah, he's only 14 when he starts going, which I know, again, sounds crazy, kind of like the car, but he's a big kid, and I don't get the feeling that local police were really worried about underage drinking in Jersey in the early 50s. I don't feel like it was a top priority for law enforcement. He gets really good at pool, makes some decent money, pool hustling over the next few years. Also develops a reputation as a tough guy, doesn't take shit. A dude quick to break a pool cue over a fool's head if he gets too lippy. After a pair of brothers ganged up on him and beat his ass after one pool game, he tracked one of them down later and fucking stabbed him in the stomach. The other brother fled town. Yeah, I bet he did. He and 4 other juvenile delinquents around this time formed a little gang called Coming Up Roses. And they each got a little matching tattoo on their left hand, which you can see when you look up documentaries and stuff of Richard Kuklinski. See that tattoo, on his left hand there, kind of between his thumb and his fingers on the back of his hand. Second man Rich claims to have killed is an Irish cop he kills around this time named Boyle. A guy went by the name of Boyle. Drunken guy apparently insulted Rich over and over as they played pool. And unfortunately for Doyle, he reminded Rich of his father, of being tormented by his father. I guess he kind of looked like his dad. After the bar closes, Rich finds Doyle. He just kind of waits for him. Finds him passing out in his car, waits for him to pass out, and then thinks about just going over there and stabbing him. But he knows if he does that, he'll be a prime suspect in murder, so instead he walks to a local gas station, buys some gasoline, comes back, pours it on Doyle, and then just like one of those old neighborhood dogs, he just fucking lights him on fire. And then he slept like a baby that night, I guess. No big whoops. If Doyle didn't want to be burned alive, then he shouldn't have called me a dumb Polak. Right? Fair's fair. In 1951, when Rich was just 16, he moved in with the woman he met in a bar, Linda. An older woman, around the age of 25, a woman it's almost impossible to find information on. Biographers tend to focus almost exclusively on his second wife, Barbara. However, he and Linda would later have 2 boys together, boys Rich would later abandon. He'd later say he never wanted kids with Linda, it just happened. Never loved her, just liked the sex. Apparently, she was almost always in the mood, and he never really wanted to marry her. He didn't even tell his family when they got married at City Hall. But he did marry her, and he also used to beat the shit out of her, like dad, like son. His little Coming Up Roses gang started making a name for themselves as a group of bathroom brawlers, tough guys who rarely, if ever, lost a fight. And they made money robbing liquor stores, burglarizing rich people's homes in surrounding suburbs, breaking into warehouses. Their activities attracted the attention of a local mafia family, the Cavalcante family, who The Sopranos are actually based on, the HBO Sopranos. And a member of this crime family, Carmine Genovese, approached the guys with a job, a contract killing, a job they took. And then when it came to doing the killing, the other 4 members of the gang couldn't go through with it. No one could pull the trigger except Richard. He took the gun from John Wheeler, who was the toughest guy in the crew when it came to bar fights, the guy who was initially going to do the killing. But John just couldn't bring himself to walk up to a dude he had no personal beef with, some dude he didn't know, and just, shoot him down. So Richard got out of the Lincoln the crew was riding in, walked up to the target, after he'd taken the gun from Wheeler, and found this guy. This guy was about to get into his car, and then just puts the gun to the back of the guy's head, pulls the trigger, and then walks back to his crew, hopped in the car, and then they sped off and acted like nothing happened. Victim never even saw it coming. His crew couldn't believe how casual Richard was about it. Just no emotion. Supposedly, John Wheeler said, "Man, Rich, you're cold like ice." And then they went back to a very pleased Carmine, who gave them each $500, man, $500 for taking a dude's life. And again, just like when his dad approved of him beating up those bullies, years ago, Richard Kuklinski finds more validation through violence, They're talking about what a great job he did. Everybody's talking him up. This is how he gets his self-esteem, his murder. After this first job, the Coming Up Roses gang starts getting a lot of work from Carmine, hijacking trucks, stealing dockyard shipments, just whatever kind of criminal enterprise they can make enough money on to make it worth it. And Carmine pays them well, and they live it up, doing shit like flying to Vegas, pissing it all away, partying. They once made $1 million in one night after hitting up an armored truck. And I guess they were basically broke a few months later. It's just fast cars, high-stakes poker games, just easy come, easy go kind of lifestyle. I mean, they're still teenagers. Life was fast and fun for the gang, but then John Wheeler and Jack Dabrowski, another Coming Up Roses gang member, fucked up big time. They held up a card game that was sponsored by the Cavalcante family-made man, Albert Parenti, a job that had not been authorized by Carmine Genovese. Albert knew Richard wasn't personally involved, when he found out, which was the only reason he didn't kill Richard. He decides to meet with Richard, lets him know that the only way out of this fuck-up was to remove Wheeler and Jack. They had to be killed, and to prove his loyalty to the Cavalcante family, the family wanted Richard to do the hit. And Richard did. He killed two of his best friends, two of the best friends he'd ever had. Found Jack outside a bar, shot him in the head before he even saw Richard coming. And then he found John shortly after that coming out of his girlfriend's apartment and shot him down in the street. Left both bodies where they laid so the police would find him, they'd make the papers, and the Cavalcante family would know that he did what had been asked of him. Well, after that, the other two Coming Up Roses members, heard rumors that Richard had killed Jack and John, and they avoided Richard like the plague. Hell yeah, they did, man. They knew all too well what he was capable of. They'd seen it firsthand. Well, by 1954, 19-year-old Richard Kuklinski, by his own account, had now killed 4 people, two of which were some of his best friends. And before we push even further into the darkness that is the Iceman, let's lighten it up with a little comedy from today's sponsor. Today's Timesuck is brought to you by Mark Maron's new Netflix special, Too Real, premiering on Netflix this week, Tuesday, September 5th. That's right. Since there's a good chance you are listening to Timesuck, this episode, on or after September the 5th, you can watch it today. Watch it right after you're done listening to this podcast. In this special, the fantastic veteran comic and legendary podcaster talks about how meditation makes him crazy, how he's not big on fun, how he turns profound discomfort into an art form. Mark is one of the most respected names in comedy, one of the stars of the new critically acclaimed Netflix original series, Glow. I've watched some of that. I'm going to watch some more. Really funny show, a period piece, so it's about wrestling. Really funny. And you can hear the trailer for his new special called Too Real right now.
A Netflix comedy special.
I don't know how to have fun. How do you have fun? How do you guys do it? I don't think I would have come to this show.
Mark Maron's mind
My comfort zone is uncomfortable.
is a complicated place.
I'm not the most courageous guy. I'm sort of an alpha pussy. There's the classic alpha male, just a meathead, rage-filled, "Rah!" And then there's the alpha pussy who makes fun of that guy.
Mark Maron, Too Real, now streaming only on Netflix.
So watch Mark Maron, Too Real, only on Netflix, September 5th. Very funny dude I've seen live several times myself. And how funny is that after the great pussy debate we had here on Timesuck a while back that he says it? His word, not mine, Timesucker. Save any angry emails you have. I do think Mark is very funny, and I am sure that the special is going to be great. Okay, so in 1954, that's where we were. 19-year-old Richard Kuklinski transitions from bully killer, contract killer, to just flat-out serial killer. Even though he'd lived his entire life within a mile or two of Manhattan, he'd only actually ever been to New York City a handful of times, and never by himself. And then, according to later prison interviews, he just starts taking the ferry across the Hudson and going on evening walks by himself just around the city, just kind of checking it out. And one night, when he's over there walking around by himself, an aggressive panhandler gets in his face one too many times, gets a little bit too pushy, demanding money. The guy does it, in a dark side street where no one else is around and, there's no witnesses. And so Richard just takes his knife out. He'd always carry at least one knife and one handgun on him in public whenever he left the house as an adult, and just stabs this dude twice in the chest, just pop, pop, pulling him in close, watching the light go out in his eyes before letting him drop to the ground. He'd say later, "I enjoy seeing the lights go out. I enjoy killing up close and personal. I always wanted the last image they had to be my face." Man, this motherfucker. Zero empathy. What an unusual beast, man. Part hitman, part serial killer. I don't know. I guess maybe that's not so unusual, I mean, if you're willing to kill for money, it can't be a big leap to just kill because you feel like some dude needs to die. Well, after this truly first random kill, he claims to have killed many more victims over the next few months. He'd come to New York City alone, and if someone bothered him on the street, in a bar, wherever, and he had a chance to get him with no witnesses around, they were as good as dead. He'd say the only criteria was that they had to be a man. No women, no kids, man. That was his murder moral code. He'd be horrifically physically abusive to women, as you're going to soon find out. He'd abandon a couple of kids of his own, but he's not going to kill them. Because, he's not a bad guy. He's got his principles, really, really fucked up principles, but I guess principles nonetheless. Well, 1955, Linda gets pregnant, and Richard wants her to get an abortion. And when she does not, he becomes violent. He even punched her in the stomach to try and basically abort the baby himself, but the baby's born anyway. Richard Jr. in 1955, and 20-year-old Richard is a dad for the first time, and he marries Linda, he says, for the kid's sake. Well, fatherhood does not deter the killings. By 1956... he's still killing, and now he has 2 kids because his second son, David, is born. Richard had emotional feelings of love towards his kids. He had no emotional feelings of love towards his kids, but he was protective of them. One example of this was when the superintendent of the apartment he lived in with Linda slapped both of Richard's kids for allegedly being too loud when he wasn't home. Linda called Richard at a local bar, told him what happened. He got in his car, drove to find this dude at the bar, beat the fuck out of him. Also got punched. He punched the bartender. When the dude tried to stop him, and he almost went to jail for that. The bartender was an off-duty cop, and Richard had to use his mob connections to get off, easy relatively, with a $3,000 fine, probably / bribe, and no jail time. Rich almost goes to prison for his entire life around that time as well, for another bar altercation, kind of gone bad, when a truck driver, who actually was tough enough to smack the 6'5" Richard around, follows Richard after the bar fight. Follows him like in his car, like they're gonna have like a little car chase type thing. Kind of cuts him off at this one point. Him and his buddies hop out to come over and give Rich a beating, but it doesn't happen because he's got a 38 on him, and he just starts shooting, and he just kills all 3 of them. Kills them in broad daylight. Could have been caught easily for that, but he got lucky. No one was around, and so he throws all 3 bodies into a cave he'd found while hunting in the wilderness of Buck County sometime earlier. According to Iceman interviews years later, a lot of men would end up disappearing in caves in Buck County. Now, I do have to bring this up at this point. There is many people out there who dispute his various murder claims. I feel compelled to say that. Years after Kuklinski was captured, amateur sleuths, serial killer fanatics would do stuff like search the caves of Buck County. And according to a 2013 Philadelphia Inquirer article I read, no remains were ever found. Richard Kranzel, who wrote the about the county's caves for the National Speleological Society, said that the long-closed Durham mine is the only place large enough to hide human remains. The mine opened during the Revolutionary War when its iron ore was made into cannonballs and gunshot. It was later used for commercial purposes before closing in 1908. And he says nothing was found in there. Now, so did Richard exaggerate? Maybe. Did he lie? Maybe. But also maybe not, The dude definitely killed people. The only question is how many. And while he allegedly never killed a woman, he did commit one of the most horrific examples of domestic abuse I can remember reading. One evening, Richard's younger brother, Joe, tells Richard he'd seen a guy, Sammy James, and Rich's wife, Linda, go into a room at the Hudson Hotel. Room 16, his brother tells him, ground level right near the Coke machine. Now, Rich and Linda did not have much of a relationship at all at this point. After the birth of the second kid, David, they were married in name only. Rich wasn't even there a lot of times. But it was the principle of it that bothered him. You don't disrespect him by fucking his wife. Even if he's not fucking his wife, you don't fuck his wife, right? I think that's actually also the real reason he beat the shit out of the apartment superintendent earlier, too. It wasn't about the guy actually upsetting and hurting Richard's kids. I think it was about this guy, disrespecting Richard by hitting Richard's kids. You don't hit Richard's kids, not Richard Kuklinski. You don't fuck with him. Didn't matter that he didn't give a shit about his kids and was about to abandon them. They're still his. So when Joe tells him that his wife is fooling around, Richard speeds off for the hotel. He kicks the door down. He shows up and catches the 2 of them in the act. Richard then horrifically beats the shit out of Sammy, supposedly breaking a preposterous amount of his bones, and then turns to Linda and says, if you weren't the mother of my sons, implying, he would kill her if she wasn't. And then he holds her down, knocks her unconscious, and proceeds to, God, this is brutal. Brace yourself for this one. Be sure you're not in mid-bite or mid-drink when you hear this. He cuts her nipples off. That's right. Takes a knife out and he cuts off her nipples. If you happen to be eating some pepperoni pizza right now, you're probably going to want to throw that away. Ugh. After this incident, not surprisingly, Richard apparently does not see much of Linda or the kids. Yeah, I don't think you get to work that out with some relationship counseling later, you know? There's no form of I'm sorry that makes up for full-on nipple removal. What the fuck? Like a lot of these tales, there is no police record of this, so we're relying on hearsay. But holy shit. You know, none of the sources I found attributed a source to this particular story, but it comes up a lot, and it's so specific, I feel like it probably, sadly, was true. That is some psychopathic shit, man. And if half the other stories are true about the Iceman, I'm not surprised he did it. The man hurt and killed people in the most inhuman of ways. And if you're thinking, you know, why weren't these killings, if they did happen, big news, why weren't police in New York City and New Jersey looking for a serial killer if he's just stabbing, fucking shooting people all the time, cutting nipples off? Well, for one, a lot of murders were just chalked up to gang violence around this time. And according to former New York Police Department Captain of Detectives Ken Rowe, he says, back then, there were no citywide records of homicides being kept as there are today. The local precinct had a file, but that was it. And because most of these killings were bums or people who no one really gave a fuck about, there was no incentive to properly work the case. You see, because he was killing in all these different ways, the cops didn't think one guy was doing it. In a sense, they were inadvertently giving him a license to kill. And he would kill. He would kill in a variety of ways. And let's dig into some of the worst of those ways in a very intense edition of Super Scary Stuff.
Super scary stuff.
All right, we're going to jump ahead as far as time goes and dig into some of the Iceman's more horrific murders. A little bit of bouncing around here as far as time goes. Then we'll hop back into the timeline for a wee bit to explain who was hiring him for all these crimes, you know, and give him a little bit more context in his life while these crimes are going on. But here are the actual crimes. Rich was cut into a deal in one with some other mobsters who had a lead on a cargo truck loaded with televisions. They were given the truck's route details, and their job was to hijack the truck, stash it in a nearby farm, put it in a barn, and then deliver it to a cash buyer a week or so later who was going to buy the entirety of the truck's cargo cash on demand. All right, now the hijack part goes smoothly, as does storing the truck in the nearby farms, put it in the barn there. But then when they come back to get the truck a week or so later out of the barn, truck's gone. Well, Rich suspects the owner of the farm for knowing something about, where it went. He asks him where the truck, is gone, and the guy plays dumb. And Rich isn't having it. He's convinced he's not telling him something, so he ties the guy to a tree to interrogate him, right? Just to get some rope, tie him to a tree so he's standing up and facing outward, so they can talk to him. And then Rich just kind of slaps him around a while, just roughs up his face a little bit, draws a little bit of blood. The guy is still claiming that he doesn't know anything. So then Rich gets the idea to go grab some emergency road flares he has in the trunk of his car, comes back and tells the guy he's going to hurt him real, real bad if he doesn't talk. Guy still plays dumb. So Richard takes off the guy's shoes. Remember, he's still tied to that tree, right? And he lights one of the flares, takes the guy's shoes and socks off, and then he holds the flame of the flare just under one of the guy's feet. Not close enough to really burn it at first, just close enough to blister it. And the guy still won't talk. He's like, man, this is just going to get worse. This is just going to get worse. The guy won't, acts like he knows, I don't know anything. So then he pushes that flame closer to the bottom of the man's foot, close enough to start searing his flesh. Close enough to start burning it away. The guy is screaming bloody murder. Rich ends up burning his fucking foot down to the bone. Charred flesh and bone. Burns his toes down to charred meat and bone. The dude still will not talk. So he's like, all right, man, I'm going to get your other foot. The guy's like, I don't know anything, man. Please stop. I don't know anything. Fucking does the same thing as his other foot. His feet are just, I'm sure the smell of them was just, a powerful stench in the air. The dude's feet are just, like if you've ever been camping and you're making some hamburger and a little bit falls into the flame, off the like that, but like that's what your feet are now. Just charred up meat. Jesus. This guy's crippled for life now, man. You're not going to reconstruct those things. Still nothing, though. Still no. The guy won't talk. We're just convinced, though, that he's holding back. So he lights the second flare. Tells the farmer if he doesn't talk, he's going to burn his fucking balls off. The guy begs and pleads, but doesn't say where the truck is. So Rich holds the second flare up to the man's jeans on his crotch, burns through his jeans, and then basically melts his testicles. I'm going to let that sink in for a bit. This guy's screaming. He's wailing. Swears he doesn't know anything. He can barely talk. Still, Richard is convinced this guy knows something. So now he tells the guy he's going to burn his dick off as well. And then just before he does, the guy actually talks. The guy did know. The guy tells him that his buddy Sammy had the truck the whole time in another farm. You know, they were going to sell it because they really needed the money. Unfucking believable. If you know, how do you not talk when he starts burning that first foot? Like, how do you think it's going to, do you think it's going to somehow get better? He's going to give up like a guy like that's going to give up after burning a foot? No. You know, why after he's burned both feet and he's, you know, got the torch to your balls, maybe then you could be like, oh, okay. I can talk. Why is it the dick that is the line? Right? Your balls are already melted off. You can't even use your dick. Why is that suddenly the breaking point? I don't know, man. Maybe the guy knew that, you know, if he finally confessed, Rich was just going to kill him anyway. I mean, that is actually what happened. Once Rich and his accomplices tracked down Sammy, found the truck, bring Sammy back to the barn, old Roasted Nuts' farm, you know, they put a bullet in both their heads. You know, at this point, for old hot balls, old fire sack, old steaming scrote, it's probably mercy killing. All right. Well, this next murder isn't brutal in its method, but it's especially savage in its choice of victim. Rich had been working with a notorious mafia gangster by the name of Roy DeMeo, a dude who was no stranger to murder at all. He'd already assembled a team of hitmen known as the DeMeo Crew, who become infamous for their brutality and the volume of murders they commit, supposedly killing over 100 people between 73 and 83. But he hadn't hired Rich yet. Hadn't hired him for a murder yet. So he just heard rumors, you know. He had been working with him regarding some pornography distribution. For years, Rich worked with a group of guys who were the main porn distributors on the East Coast. That's where he made a lot of his money. They were, distributing legal porn, but then also a lot of stuff that was not legal. You know, stuff that had girls that weren't quite 18. A lot of stuff with women and animals. Yep, all kinds of bestiality. Something else I didn't know about the Iceman before this week, that the dude apparently didn't care about porn. He had a strange moral code, and while he was clearly not opposed to murder, he also had no interest in porn, prostitutes, strippers. He was always faithful to whoever he dated. There was just money to him. Anyway, Roy DeMeo, he wants Rich to prove that he can kill anyone Roy wants him to kill. No questions asked. So he takes Rich along for a drive, some of the other members of the murder crew. And then I guess they were in an intersection when Roy sees this guy, just some random guy walking his dog, getting ready to cross the intersection. You know, they're stopped waiting on a red light. No one else is around. He points to the guy and just says, cap him. And Rich is like, here? Now? Roy tells him to do it. And he stepped out of the car, walked up behind the guy, shot him in the back of the head, just stepped back in the car, and they just drove off like it was fucking nothing. This wasn't some guy who owed mob money. This wasn't some guy who stole from the mob. It wasn't some idiot who tried to, you know, make some money on a fucking barn hijack. It wasn't some guy who bothered Rich or a member of Rich's family. Not a guy who hassled any of these guys in any way. Just some random human being, possibly father, possibly somebody's boyfriend or husband, definitely somebody's son. Life taken just so Rich could prove to somebody else that he was a good guy to hire for killing other people. What a piece of shit. All these guys, just pieces of shit. All of them monsters. His dad Stanley was a monster. Rich was even worse. All right, back to brutality. This next method of murder was apparently Richard's favorite. He claims to have done this several times. He claims to have found a bunch of rats one day in one of those caves in the woods of Buck County. He says he dropped off some meat once to see how fast they'd kind of come out from their hiding places and go through it. And he just kind of like conditioned them. He just feed them sometimes and get them used to coming out to kind of this open space in the cave and eat whatever he put out there. And he figured out eventually these rats would eat a person. And this next victim is one of these people. Some mob boss didn't like who her daughter was dating, didn't like his intentions, thought he was too old for her, was just out to get some ass, and then off to bang the next girl. And he confronts this dude in his early 20s, asks what his intentions are. The guy's like, says he just wants to have some fun. Well, this was enough for this mob boss to want this guy dead. So he hires Richard to kill him, says he wants to make sure the guy suffers before he dies. These people are fucking psychopaths. All of them. So Rich kidnaps this young dude, ties him up, takes him to Buck County, strips him down, ties him to a chair, and then he decides to try something new. He takes some thin rawhide strips he'd soaked, got them real wet, and then he ties them around the guy's forehead, his arms, his balls. If you don't know anything about rawhide, most people I think so associate it with their dogs' chew toys. You get those little rawhide chew toys you can get, which actually is not supposed to be not very good for them. But anyway, rawhide constricts as it dries. And so he knows this. He puts them on wet and then just lets them start drying, and they just keep tightening and tightening and tightening. They cut into the skin of his arms and forehead so much that draw blood. They're nearly popping his bright red now testicles. Right? He then takes Polaroid photos of the guy suffering so he can show the mob boss. And then the rats start smelling the blood bleeding from this guy. They start hearing his screams of pain, and they're curious. They start coming out there to check things out. And then they start getting a little more curious, start getting closer to him, and then eventually they start taking little nibbles. And they start taking little bites. And then more rats come, and they start climbing all over this guy in this chair, covering him, just taking more and more bites, just fucking chewing his face off, everything. Richard comes back 2 days later. There's just a gnawed skeleton tied to a chair. Fuck, man. Again, if this is true, and I don't know why later in prison he would be making this stuff up. I don't know. Jesus Christ, man. He called this method of execution death from 1,000 bites. This guy and Vlad the Impaler would have been, good bosom buddies. Would have had serious man crushes on one another. What the fuck? This guy was fed to rats just because he was a normal 20-something dude. Wanted to fool around with his girlfriend without intending to marry her. My God. Well, Rich wasn't opposed to an extremely quick death either. He seemed to love to play with different murder techniques, like kind of like a chef experiments with different ingredients to make the perfect meal. Iceman liked to play with different murder methods to build the perfect kill for the perfect situation. Strangely, if more people took as much pride in their jobs as the Iceman took pride in murder, the world would actually be a much better place. An LA porn shop manager had been taking several of Rich's porn shipments, but was not paying for them. He was way behind on payments, and then suddenly he stops returning Rich's calls. Stops answering the phone. So Rich flies out to Los Angeles from New Jersey, find out what the guy's deal was, shows up, walks in there, asks him where his money is. And the guy tells him, I don't have it. And he's like, well, you got to pay me my money. And the guy's like, you'll get it in a month. And Rich is like, that's not our agreement. And the guy says, it is now. And just like that, with that moment of disrespect, he signed his own death warrant. Rich then snuck a pin out of a grenade he'd apparently been holding down beneath the counter where the porn shop owner couldn't see it, and then just tosses the pin at the guy. And when the guy's like, what is this? Rich says, it's a surprise. Then tosses him the grenade as he kind of like hurries out of the shop, and then he fucking blows the guy to pieces, blows up his shop. And then he just walks to his rental car, drives back to the airport, and flies back home. How weird is that? He'd be sitting in a first-class seat, because apparently he always flew first class because it made him feel important. He's on a cross-country flight hours after blowing up some porn shop owner with a grenade. Probably sitting next to some traveling businessman, some upper-level executive maybe. I wonder if, when making inevitable small talk, he was ever tempted just to tell the truth and just scare the fuck out of people. Just, pharmaceutical sales. That's how I make my money. It's not bad, man. It's a nice racket. What do you do? Well, I've been dealing a lot of porn, but I also got my hands on a little of this and a little of that. Murder's what I enjoy the most. Love a good murder. Good money and murder. Okay, no, really. What do you do? Well, today I blew up some porn shop owner and blew him into fucking oblivion. Oh man, if you haven't seen a man getting blown to shit, you haven't lived. Last week I fed some punk to some rats after wrapping some wet rawhide around his nuts. Hey, stewardess, can I get a whiskey sour? What do you want to drink, there, friend? I'm good. I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna try and get some sleep. Unfucking believable. And I love with this airport stuff too. This guy, he would fly around the country and just bring weapons with him in the days before any sort of security checks whatsoever at the airport. You could just fucking, your carry-on could be just nothing but guns. It could just be all guns. No one checked anything. Oh, unreal. Okay, so toward the end of his career, in the few years before he was captured, Rich was apparently a very, very, very busy boy when it came to murder. And again, a lot of this comes from, prison interviews Richard gave when he knew he'd never be a free man again. A lot of these murders have never been verified by the police. However, there is no doubt he was a mafia-connected hitman, and there's also, no reason to use substantial amounts of taxpayer money to try and verify all these cases. And Richard was in a position to, come across a lot of contracted killings because he wasn't Italian. That's why he was able to do all these murders too. Not being Italian, it was basically impossible for him to become a made man and become part of a mafia family. Because sometimes these hit guys, when they're Italian, they become part of a family, and now they work for that family. They don't. Well, Rich just worked for everybody, because he wasn't connected to any one particular family. He could basically just be an independent murder contractor and work for whoever felt like hiring him. I mean, of course, if he killed a member of a family that he'd done work for, and then they found out about it, there's a good chance, a hit could be put out on him, but he was good enough at covering his tracks that never happened because he actually did that several times, according to, again, interviews. Allegedly, in one particularly busy month, he killed 15 men, all contracted killings, and he killed them in the same warehouse. He was an up-close and personal kind of killer. That's what he was into at this time. He was into a phase of wanting to be right up close and personal, and he decided just to beat these guys to death, and he'd hit them with crowbars, hammers, pipes, tie them to chairs, slam a screwdriver in their backs to sever their spine, leaving them paralyzed but still alive. Jesus, man. The term daddy issues, that gets thrown around a lot with women, but Rich clearly had daddy issues of his own. A little bit of untrained armchair therapy here, but he never seemed to psychologically recover from all those early beatings from his dad, did he? Right? When you watch him in documentary interviews, there were several done on him. He talks about killing guys who reminded him of his father. Talked about how angry bullies and loudmouths, people like his father, made him. Feeling disrespected, feeling judged comes up a lot. His father disrespected and judged him. I just feel like, especially considering, while he would abuse women, he wouldn't kill them. But how he would kill any man, he was just symbolically killing his father over and over again. He just spent so much of his childhood feeling powerless, to the constant violence, that he overcompensated and decided he'd overcome his early years of violence by embracing it, becoming about as violent as you can get as an adult. Strangely, though, again, he never killed his dad, man. And again, he talked later about regretting that. I do think it's strange when a serial killer's motivation to kill is clearly inspired by one particular person, and then they just never kill that person. A whole bunch of strangers just have to die instead. Well, another man was taken to that rat cave, tied to a chair, and in another incident of torture, he was forced to listen to "I keep forgetting I'm not in love anymore. I keep forgetting things will never be the same again. I keep forgetting I'm not in love anymore." Michael motherfucking McDonald singing one song on repeat for 7 straight goddamn days. And then when a week had passed, Rich dipped the man's nuts in some ground beef and fucking honey and unleashed Bojangles into the cave, who hadn't eaten in 4 days. No, of course not. Our sweet Timesuck mascot Bojangles, that beloved 3-legged one-eyed pitbull, would never work with a sadistic creep like the Iceman. I don't think. He might. He probably wouldn't, though. Been a while since I McDonald you guys, Wasn't feeling it for a couple episodes. You guys, I just figured this was the perfect episode to remind you that you're never safe. You are never safe from being McDonalded. Okay, one more terrifying murder before we pop out of this segment. This is the worst one I came across. As bad as these other ones were, if you were on the edge with the other ones, you might want to fast forward a little bit. This is unbelievable. Rich had a special disdain for rapists. He hated them more than bullies. And when he got a hold of one, he'd push himself to new levels of just utter viciousness. This shit is off the charts. Roy DeMeo gave Rich a contract to kill a man who had beat and raped the 14-year-old daughter of an associate of his down in Miami. Roy wanted proof that the man would suffer immensely. Rich flew down, waited for the dude to get off work. When he went out to his car, Rich snuck up behind him, stuck a .38 into his back, walked him into a van he'd rented, had him get inside, handcuffed him, stuck a sock in his mouth, drove him to a secluded beach, tormented him on the way there, telling him exactly what he was going to do to him. He's going to kill him. He's going to make him suffer a whole bunch before he dies. And now, look, I don't have any sympathy for rapists, but what he did to this guy is just unbelievable, just so inhuman. And he dragged the guy out of a van, tied him to a tree. Dude loved tying people to trees. And then he put on some gloves, took the guy's pants and underwear down, and then grabbed the guy's balls. I feel like at this point you have to know, if you're the guy with your balls in Richard Kuklinski's giant hands, nothing good's about to happen. Like, best case, Richard squeezes your balls real hard. I think that's a reasonable best case scenario in this situation. You get a firm ball squeeze, makes your insides feel like they're turning upside down into jelly. Worst case, he rips your balls clean off. Well, Rich goes for worst case. Straight to worst case. He pulls down with those giant Polish bear claws of his and literally rips the man's balls off. And that's just the opening act for the show he's putting on that night. He then shows the man the dude's own balls. He tosses them aside, takes a break from the torture. Taking in the light of the moon, listening to the waves hit the beach. He wanted to let the pain really sink in for this guy. And then round 2. He takes out his knife and he cuts the guy's dick off. And he shows the guy's dick to him. Then he puts it in a plastic bag to give to Roy later so he can prove to DeMeo, and DeMeo can show it to his associates. This guy definitely suffered. Oh, God, did he suffer. Then, as bad as this already is, it gets even worse. He takes his knife. This made me just sick to my stomach, even more than the other things I've said. And he starts filleting off little random bits of flesh from around the dude's body, just cutting off a little chunk here, cutting off a little chunk there, and then before the guy can bleed to death, he goes back to the van, grabs a big bag of kosher salt he'd saved for this occasion. I don't know why it was kosher, but that detail was in the stuff I read, so I included it. I don't know if the guy was like, "Hey man, will this salt do?" "Oh no, I need some I need some kosher salt. Can't be dirty. I need some kosher salt." Well, he really planned this out. He literally rubbed salt in all of the guy's wounds. Fucking A. The guy must have just explosions of legendary pain. Like, I don't even know what you could do to inflict more pain on someone than that. Well, Rich did know. Still not done. Splits open the guy's stomach, lets his intestines fall out. And then I guess somehow this guy is still alive. He unties him from the tree. He puts a life jacket on him. God, he loved tying people to trees, didn't he? And just pushes him out to sea while the tide is going out, confident the tiger sharks in the area are going to, be drawn in by all the blood and just, fucking finishing him off. And even if they don't, he's just going to die. He's just going to drown anyway. And then he just left, head back to Jersey. hands the dude's dick to DeMeo, collects his money, goes home and probably plays, I don't know, Battleship or some shit with his wife and kids. And that, Timesuckers, is some hellacious, super scary stuff.
Super scary stuff. Super scary stuff. Super scary stuff.
Okay. When we left the timeline to delve into the hell that Rich inflicted on his victims, the year was 1955, and Rich had just abandoned his family after cutting off his wife's nipples. Motherfucker, that is a horrible sentence. 1961, fast forward there, and 26-year-old Richard Kuklinski, who would estimate later he'd already killed over 50 men by that time, is working at the Swift Line Trucking Company. Mob associate had gotten him a cushy job there to make a little money in between murders and other criminal exploits. Young Richard was a big gambler at this time, and any money he made, he quickly blew in casinos or just overall just dicking around. He'd have $100,000 in cash one month and be broke the next. And during one of his kind of broke periods, he takes this trucking job. And working at this warehouse, he's a big dude. He can load shit. And at this job, he meets his next wife, Barbara Pedrici. Now, Barbara was 18 and had just started working there as a secretary. He was learning how to be an accountant. Rich ran into her at the soda machine one day, flirts with her a little bit, and then they run into each other again at a loading port. And Rich flirts a bit more, and his boss sees this, also her boss. And she happened, Barbara, to remind her boss of her boss's daughter. He'd taken a liking to her, not in a sexual way, like in a protective way. And the dude did not like Richard, so he had a good read on people, apparently. And he tells Richard to stay away from her. Tells him to not date her. Absolutely not. Rich tells him he'll fucking talk or date whoever he wants. So the guy fires him. Tells him to stop by that afternoon to pick up his check and then never come back. Well, Rich decides to kill the guy that night. But then when he comes back to grab that check, he sees Barbara again. She feels terrible. She'd accidentally gotten him fired, and she asked if he wanted to go out and grab a coffee after work. Well, that decision saved her boss's life, but also destroyed her own future. Richard fell in love almost immediately with Barbara, and even though her family did not like him, thought he was too old for her, she's just 18, he decided that he had to have her. Well, they took things slow. First, Barbara was a virgin, intended to stay that way until marriage. They went on various dates, almost most were kind of like a platonic vibe. Barbara thought he was okay, but she wasn't that interested. She's 18. She wants to date other boys. Well, she wanted to date somebody closer to her own age. She did like how Richard brought her like flowers and stuff. No other boy had ever done that. But she did not like how he would just show up at her house uninvited or just show up at her job uninvited to like walk her home when her shift was over. Big red flag there, ladies and gay men. A dude showing up at your house uninvited, or showing up to your job uninvited early in the relationship, not once but multiple times, not romantic. That's fucking psychotic. Oh, he's still romantic. He just cared. No, he's damaged. He's a lunatic. And then eventually, when he just kept coming around and around and around, Barbara decided it was too much and tells him one day that she'd like to see other people, that she's just not interested in pursuing this. Iceman does not take that well. As she's telling him this in the car, he slipped his arm around behind her, and then suddenly she feels a prick on her shoulder, and then she looks down, sees a drop of blood, realizes he just kind of casually stabbed her a little bit. Just a little warning stab. Snuck a knife blade back there and cut her a little bit. And she goes nuts, obviously. She freaks out. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What kind of crazy person does something like this? I mean, God, if only she knew who he really was. Richard then tells her in no uncertain terms that if she leaves him, he'll kill her entire family. He'll kill everyone he loves. Or everyone he loves. Everyone she loves. And then he beats the shit out of her in the car. Beats her unconscious. When she finally comes to, he acts like nothing's happened. Like all's good. Like, well, settle that. Now, good thing we can move on. Every once in a while you have a bump in the road, but you smooth it out, with a good beating. And, reminds her that he's going to kill her entire family. Also tells her that he loves her. And lets her out of the car. And again, this is not funny. It's just so ridiculous. Ladies and gay men, not a red flag when something like this happens. It's a fucking death threat. It's a fucking death threat. This is when you go to the police. This is when you go to the, I don't care that this was the Iceman. If she would have gone to the police, I don't actually think he would have killed her because he would be a prime suspect. He would have been pissed off, but he would have been prime, and that wasn't his style. He killed random dudes. He had altercations with in bars, or ran into an alley or people that look like his dad, but he wouldn't. I really don't think he would have killed her or her female relatives. I don't think so. But he was never the prime suspect in any of his murders for almost 3 decades. He was only tied to 5 killings at the end of his criminal career. He was pretty good at not killing people that he had obvious connection to. But you know what? I still think though that's a risk you have to take. Never let someone threaten you into a relationship. Odds are, going to the police, turning them in is the safest thing you can do for yourself and the people around you. Or if you try to get the police involved and they're not helping, Well, I think you do what you need to do then. I'm not saying you poison him to death. I'm not saying that. I can't legally say that you should poison him to death, but I can say that you should do what you need to do to protect yourself. Like, I'm not gonna say that you should invite him to go for a hike where there's a nice spot to stand on that's kind of slippery on the edge of a high cliff, where the fall would be enough to definitely, kill you. I'm not saying you get him to look at that and then push him off. I'm not going to condone that. But again, you do what you need to do to protect yourself. Well, okay. After briefly fleeing to Florida in 1961 to get away from Richard to go live with her father, who was living down there, Richard eventually shows up on her door there as well. Barbara finally accepts he's just never going to give up. And he might actually kill her or kill her family, and they end up getting married. They get married on September 8th, 1961. And I should note, she didn't stay with him completely out of fear. She would later say she was married to two men, Good Rich and Bad Rich. Good Rich was a perfect gentleman who would buy her flowers, take her shopping, get her anything she wanted, open the car door for her, write her letters, spoil the kids they'd have together, take her out to nice dinners, surprise her with gifts, make love to her, all that. Bad Rich would slap her around at both private and public, slap her in front of the kids. Bad Rich would rape her if she didn't want to have sex. Bad Rich was a terrifying fucking monster who was not only violent, but terrifyingly strong. That kept coming up in research. The dude was, 6'5", and again, by the time he was 30s, he's damn near 300 pounds, and I guess he just had, like, gorilla strength, especially when he got mad. Like, Barbara would say she witnessed him once during an argument just take a marble coffee table, a big one, they had in their living room. The two large moving men had struggled to get in there, and he just fucking picked it up and threw it through the living room window. That's terrifying. Scary dude. March 27th, 1964, Rich and Barbara have their first child, a daughter, Merrick, born after the couple had 3 miscarriages. At least one of the miscarriages was due to Rich's violence, specifically. He beat the shit out of Barbara, punched her in the stomach when she's 5 months pregnant. If you watch the Michael Shannon film about the Iceman, simply called The Iceman, I think the movie took it way too easy on the character of Richard Kuklinski. About, like, they tried to paint a picture of him being a murderous sociopath who was also a loving family man at home, and that's really not true. He put on a good front, neighbors thought he was a nice guy, and he was unusual in that he did, tons of bad shit, but apparently never cheated on Barbara. I'm sure she never cheated on him, especially if he told her that nipple story. Holy shit. He didn't do drugs. He never physically beat the kids, but he wasn't a good dude. He's a fucked up psychopath. He desperately wanted some kind of Norman Rockwell-type tranquil family life, the family life he never had growing up, and he kind of created it for himself, but he didn't create it, through love. He created it through intimidation and terror. Well, little Merrick, his firstborn, would be his favorite child, and actually the only person who wouldn't have a bad thing to say about her dad later after he went to prison. She was in the hospital a lot growing up, and Rich was very sensitive towards her, always there by her side, holding her hand, gently petting her forehead, sleeping in the hospital room, when she had to stay overnight. He'd tell Merrick about his horrible childhood, but that he had, but not really talk about it with his other family members. He also told her, though, that if something bad happened, he may have to kill the whole family. But if he did have to do that she would be the hardest person to kill, because he loved her the most. And she seemed to somehow understand that. What a number he did on her little brain. That's not that bad, guys. I know he's killed a lot of people. But most of them were bad, Yeah, I know he beat up Mom a lot, but to be fair, she was pretty lippy. He said there could be a situation where he'd have to kill all of us, but he said it'd be hard. He said it'd be super hard, and he said it would be the hardest for him to kill me because he loved me the most. Daddy loves me. I'm a lucky girl. Wow. April 21st, 1965, the Kuklinskis have their second child, daughter Chris, and then on January 13th, 1969, they welcome their third and final child, son Dwayne. Richard, not happy to have a boy. He felt that a son would vie for attention from Barbara. He felt threatened by his son, but he never beat Dwayne or the other 2 kids he had with Barbara. For a beaten woman, Barbara was no wallflower. She did tell Rich in no uncertain terms that if he started beating the kids, she would kill him in his sleep, and I guess he believed that, so he never did. December 17th, 1986, let's fast forward all the way there. Rich is finally arrested for all the murders. He's arrested, not for all the murders. He's arrested for 5 of them. He's arrested for multiple murders, and then he would never get out of prison again. Merrick is 22 at this point. Chris is 21. Dwayne is 17, finishing high school. Can you only imagine the stares he got in the halls, like on December 18th? After his dad is suddenly, front page national news as a brutal murderer. Well, all the other murders I talked about, the ones that he didn't get charged for, most of them I read about in a book called The Iceman Confessions of a Mafia Contract Killer. That was my primary source for today's episode, and I'm going to be honest, kind of a tedious read. It's 500 pages, just over, I think, a few over 500 pages in the paperback, and it spends about 30 pages on his childhood, which I found very interesting, very fascinating, and then about 400 pages on just murder after murder after murder after murder. Like after a while, it's like, all right, I get it. He's confessed to killing a lot of people. I get it. He killed people in solo murder contracts given to him from like Roy DeMeo and a variety of other mobsters. He completed contracts for mob associates, as you know now. Sometimes he killed people because he just pissed him off. Sometimes he killed people, working in a group. For a while, he had an interesting relationship with another contract killer named Robert Pronge, a.k.a. Mr. Softy, a guy who showed up in the Michael Shannon movie, guy who drove a Mr. Softy ice cream truck. And was also an independent murder-for-hire contractor. Mr. Softy knew a lot about explosives and poison, and Richard supposedly learned a lot about how to use like cyanide from Mr. Softy, a method that would become one of his favorite ways of killing people, and a method that would help eventually get him caught. And then when Mr. Softy asked Richard to kill his family for him because he was afraid they could lead to his arrest, Richard shot him to death. You don't kill kids, man. Supposedly, this Pronge was especially nuts and was also considering dumping a massive amount of ricin poison into a local reservoir to fulfill a murder contract around that time. Because the whole family he was hired to kill would be poisoned. Also, hundreds of other people would be poisoned. If that is true, I guess the Iceman saved hundreds of lives by putting him down. So, real fucking hero. And again, almost all of this comes from Rich's confessions, hours and hours of confessions he gave in documentaries and confessions he gave, for that book. Many of these confessions would be contested. You can go online and find a ton of the Iceman lies type of, website stuffs. Types of, pages out there. But none of the sources claiming he lied are any more credible than him claiming that, they were true. It's not like law enforcement officers came forward to say, no way, never did any of that. He claimed to have eventually killed Roy DeMeo, but now there's evidence that, maybe he didn't do that. I personally don't give a shit. If the guy did 10% of what he claimed to have done, still an infamous, darkly fascinating psychopath. And hopefully we can study these people again to figure out, like, how do we prevent more of these people from existing? Okay, so let's hop out of this timeline and examine the killings he was convicted of, the ones that got him arrested, the ones we know for sure he was involved in.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
A string of New Jersey burglaries in 1981 is what would eventually lead to Rich's arrest. Guy gets caught by the owner in a burglary that matches the style of other burglaries, and then the guy starts talking at jail, and a detective named Pat Kane gets involved in the interrogation. And then this guy, to get himself out of some prison time, he agrees to take Detective Kane to all the houses the gang had burglarized, ends up showing him 43 total houses, and he also rats out his accomplices, Danny Deppner, Gary Smith, Percy House, and a guy he knew only as Big Rich. Well, Detective Kane finds and arrests Percy House, but can't find the other dudes. He does stakeouts for weeks, and they just don't show up. But then Danny Deppner's wife shows up at the police station and is hysterical. She says that Danny had contacted her and that he's afraid for his life. He says that Big Rich is going to kill them all, that the dude is the devil, he's a murderer. And then she gives Detective Kane his full name, and it's Richard Kuklinski. And then she tells him that Rich has already killed Gary Smith. She said, he took all the guys to a hotel after Percy got arrested and told him to stay put. Well, Gary wanted to go sneak out and visit his daughter, and then he came back, but Rich finds out. And after he finds out, he brings the guy some hamburgers. And seconds after Gary starts eating his hamburger, starts having a lot of trouble breathing. Starts turning blue, falls in the ground, and then Rich has Danny, finish him off with some strangulation. And Danny, I guess, obeys. And then detectives find Gary's body a little while after that, and instead of disposing it like he had claimed to normally do, Rich and Danny just pushed the body under the bed in the York Motel in North Bergen, New Jersey. And by the time it was found, 12 other guests had slept above the body. How creepy is that? Ugh. Oh my God. Detective Kane then also found out that Rich had called the hotel shortly after Danny and Gary had checked in. So, a little sloppy on Rich's part. Then in May of 1983, Danny Deppner's body is found in a wooded area of West Milford, New Jersey. He'd been shot in the head, also possibly strangled. Detective Kane knew Rich was behind it, but couldn't link him to the crime conclusively enough to get a warrant. Kane realizes they're going to need an undercover cop to get, the evidence they need to nail this guy. To just, actually catch him, planning something for sure. And then he meets Dominic Proliferone, a 39-year-old undercover agent with a history of infiltrating East Coast mafia families who worked for, and this guy worked for the ATF. Well, Kane also got Percy House, who was still in jail for the burglaries he did with Rich, to agree to be a snitch and wear a wire to incriminate a bigger fish, Phil Salamine, a man they needed to get Richard. See, Phil was a guy who seemed to know all the criminals in North Jersey. He had a hangout spot called The Store, where these guys would come, they'd, get assigned new jobs, get contracts, play high-stakes poker games, shoot the shit, like a gangster hideout. Phil knew Richard. And Richard had gotten jobs from Phil and also gotten weapons. And the plan was for Phil to vouch for undercover agent Dominic, going by Dominic Provenzano now, act like they went way back, connect Dominic to Rich. And then the opportunity came up with when Rich went to Phil to get some cyanide. He'd killed his previous cyanide contractor or supplier, I guess, and now he needed a new guy. That's one of the problems, with constantly murdering the people you work with. Later, when you need a favor, you can't get it because they're dead because you killed them. Dominic and Phil end up meeting several times. Dominic says he had a lead on a big old batch of pharmaceutical-grade cyanide. And in the course of several conversations, Rich straight up admits to having used cyanide in the past to kill people, but he doesn't give names. Detective Kane and the others working on the case, they need more proof. They want more proof that he's a killer. They want him to buy what he thinks is cyanide from Dominic and try to use it. And then in a big sting, numerous plainclothes officers witness Rich buying what he thinks is cyanide from Dominic with the verbal intent to use it to kill someone. This kid that Dominic's been saying he's been selling coke to, and he's a problem. He wants him gone. Rich is like, no problem. And they arrest Rich shortly after that, right outside his home. And apparently, it takes 8 officers to hold this bull of a man down. It takes 4 guys to get his hands behind his back, and then they had to use leg shackles instead of handcuffs to restrain him because his big ass murder wrists are so thick. And when it was all said and done, Rich is convicted in the murders of Gary Smith, Danny Deppner, Louis Maskey, George Maliband, and Peter Calabro. George Maliband of Huntington, Pennsylvania, was killed January 31st, 1980, after he met with Mr. Kuklinski to sell several videotapes, and his body was found several days later, stuffed in a 55-gallon drum. Louis Maskey was last seen in July 1991 on his way to videotape, a videotape business deal with Mr. Kuklinski. He had apparently $95,000 hidden in the door panel of his van. 15 months later, Mr. Maskey's partially decomposed body is found in Orangetown, New York, shot in the head, wrapped in several plastic bags. Authorities said the body had been stored in a freezer. And that's how he got the name from the Iceman, as far as the media was concerned. Kuklinski fired a shotgun at Detective Calabro's head as the officer eased his Honda Civic through a snowstorm way back in March 14, 1980. And he ends up getting convicted for all these, 3 separate trials. After these convictions, he would spend the rest of his life in jail. And then his health starts to fail in October 2005 after 17 years in prison. He's diagnosed with a rare and incurable inflammation of the blood vessels, transferred to a secure wing at St. Francis Medical Center in Trenton, New Jersey. And then check this out. He'd asked doctors to make sure they revived him if he went into some kind of cardiac arrest, but, he's clearly afraid of dying. But his wife, Barbara, who he'd given power of attorney to previously, had signed a do not resuscitate order on him. Well, a week before his death, the hospital calls Barbara to ask if she wishes to rescind the instructions for the do not resuscitate because he wants him taken back. She says no. And then he dies at age 70 on March 5th, 2006. Kind of a nice little last victory for Barb, Nope, dude, not letting you live a day longer than I have to. And then the Iceman is no more. Now let's take one more look at this cold-blooded son of a bitch with some top 5 takeaways.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
Number 1, according to the Iceman, he watched his father, Stanley Kuklinski, literally beat his older brother, Florian, to death when he was 5 years old. You might not become a serial killer after seeing, some shit like that, but if you don't want to seriously increase the odds that you're going to raise a serial killer or a murderer, you probably should not murder in front of your kids. And you especially shouldn't murder one of your kids in front of another one of your kids. That's kind of parenting 101. Number 2, the Iceman had a very strange moral code. He refused to kill women, but he'd shoot a random passerby in the head with a crossbow bolt if the passerby happened to be a man. And he'd mutilate and savagely beat you if you were a woman. But not kill you. He's not a scumbag. Number 3, the Iceman claims to have brutalized animals as a child, including setting a dog on fire. If your kid sets a dog on fire, do not think, he's just going through a phase. Oh, no, this is no phase. He's transitioning into becoming a serial killer. Get that diabolical seed of yours into some much-needed crisis counseling. Number 4, the Iceman killed men for disrespecting him in a bar, being too pushy when asking him for money. Good reminder that when you're out there in the world, you're out there in public, man, you really don't know who you're fucking with. So probably best to avoid confrontation. Might feel good in the moment to tell some random dude to go fuck themselves, but if that dude is anything like Richard Kuklinski, it's not going to seem like you made a good decision when your lifeless body is laying in an alley behind the bar with a bullet in the back of your head. Number 5, new info. Richard wasn't the only Kuklinski to spend the last years of his life in the Trenton State Prison in Trenton, New Jersey. In September of 1970, Rich's little brother Joseph, then 25, was arrested and then convicted for luring a 12-year-old girl, Pamela Deal, to a roof, sodomizing, strangling, and then throwing her body several stories down to the ground below. Ugh. And then he threw the girl's dog off the roof with her, just for added insult, I guess. Well, the dog, who broke a leg but survived, kept barking, alerted witnesses to Pamela's body. Joseph was quickly caught, charged, convicted, sentenced. He'd finally die in prison on September 22nd, 2003. And then in a twist of fitting justice, Joseph would, over the years, have several surgeries to repair his rectum, which had been torn numerous times from brutal and frequent sodomizing. Hard to feel bad for him after he did what he did. Really kind of poetic, really, you know? And despite staying in the same prison for years, the two brothers never hung out and rarely spoke. Rich was disgusted by his rapist, child, killing brother because, he was just so much morally superior to him. Dude had his principles.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
So that is the Iceman. What a brutal son of a bitch, man. What a strange dude. He had such an odd moral code, didn't he? Wouldn't do anything to a child other than, abandon his first 2 kids. Wouldn't kill a woman, but would savagely beat him. Would do anything to a man. Would just do whatever, no matter how innocent the guy was. He also distributed hardcore pornography. I'm talking bestiality hardcore for years and years. But then was faithful in relationships and looked down on women who posed nude. They discussed him to the end, in fact. Women would send him letters in prison proclaiming their love for him right up until he died. And a lot of these women would also include naked photos of themselves and put those in the letters, when they'd send him in prison. And apparently, they grossed him out. He would just throw their pictures in the trash. They disgusted him. He felt that any woman who sends a stranger naked photos is a pig. Well, then what does killing people's sons, husbands, and dads make you? Wow, strange, man. And side note, why do women do that? Why the fuck would you want to try and start a relationship with a convicted murderer? How sick is that? You are so messed up if that's what you're into. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's Suck subject. Thanks goes to Timesuckers, John Prim, Kyle, Patrick Easel, who's been bugging me for months for some Iceman Suck, and anyone else I may have missed. And hopefully the sound is good this week. I've had to record on the road again. I tried getting out of the hotel that I was at, and I went to the comedy club. I'm in the green room at the Omaha Funny Bone. I thought I would have it to myself. I do have the room to myself, but there's other workers around. They're quite noisy. I hear them in my headphones. Hopefully it's not distracting for you. I found the best place I could this week. And again, whenever possible, I do this in the home studio. But sometimes it's just not possible. Next Monday, the Time Suck is going to be 9/11 because it is 9/11 this coming Monday. We're going to look back at what happened on that fateful day. The infamous 9/11, who did it, why they claimed to do it, and the incredible heroics of the brave men and women who saved lives and risked their lives that day, many of whom died, many of whom sacrificed their lives doing so. And we'll also take a peek at conspiracy theories that still surround this event. I actually don't know much about it, don't know much about the conspiracies at all, but I am interested in looking into it and finding out, and I'm interested in reading some inspiring tales of real heroism. Also, thanks to you Timesuckers who've been rocking that new Timesuck tee, that 4th generation, right? And to those wearing the first 3 generations of tees, the new Timesuck hats, I'm so excited. There's going to be 2 styles with 2 different color options with each to choose from. So really 4 different hats. So fucking excited to get these. They should be in the store this coming Monday, according to the FedEx stuff. So thanks to those of you also who support the show by using that Amazon button on timesuckpodcast.com to do your shopping on Amazon as well. And also at the website, you can link over to the tour dates, find out where I'm going to be. And if you follow Timesuck on Instagram, which you should, you can vote on the next bonus episode. It's coming up real fast. You guys have been rating away, and I appreciate it. Less than 20 iTunes reviews away from the 900 review episode. The topic that gets the most comments under the bonus episode post on Instagram. The Instagram handle is Timesuck Podcast. Before midnight Pacific time this Sunday, September 10th. You have to get them in before then. Will be the next bonus episode, whatever gets the most. And that bonus episode, probably based on current reviews, probably come out around Friday, September 15th. And this time you get to pick from the following 3 topics. You can pick the Salem witch trials. I think that's going to be interesting as shit. You can pick Mothman, that paranormal legend. Or if you haven't had your fill of murder after today's episode, the Zodiac Killer. So Salem Witch Trials, Mothman, or the Zodiac Killer. Follow the Suck on Instagram to vote for that. And again, tickets still on sale. Not many left, though, so please don't just think you can show up at the door and get in. At the Melrose Improv, Thursday, October 5th, for the first ever live Timesuck podcast. And also the 7th, I will be at the same club doing some stand-up. Ticket links in the episode description. And again, more shows coming up in a lot of other places. And now if you're wondering why there was no Idiot to the Internet segment, there is. And it's happening right now.
Idiots of the Internet.
Okay, today's idiot is not some random YouTuber. Sadly, it's a time sucker. Or at this point, probably a former time sucker. Look, I don't mind thoughtful criticism. I really don't, and I get a fair amount of it. I don't share with you guys messages and stuff, and I enjoy it. I really do, even if it's harsh sometimes. In the moment, I might have to be like, God dang, but then I'll think about it. And I learn a lot from it. A lot of it really makes me reflect on what I think about, what I think I know, helps me to evolve, become a better person. So much so that I want to do some more stuff with kind of like community discussions here coming up hopefully by the end of the year. And I love that Timesuck provides that. Again, sorry if you hear noises. It feels like there's just people just throwing shit into walls behind me. But some critics are just trolls, right? There is nothing constructive in what they do. Some people are just sad, angry, bitter individuals looking to shit on everyone's good time, just poisonous people. And one of these people recently started listening to The Suck and loved it, I guess, until the last episode. And then they tweeted, me, the following tweet saying, "Listen to, love every podcast except for the last one. Endless Dem and Rep switched parties. Horse shit killed me, brah." Okay, so far, no big deal. You have every right to not like an episode. Of course you do. I expect nothing less. But I didn't make up the fact that at one point in history, the Democrat Party in the U.S. and the Republican Party had switched ideologies, right? It didn't happen like overnight, but when the Democrats started, they were conservative, and then the Republicans, when they started, they were liberal. That's just documented historical fact. If you don't know, the Democratic Party evolved from the conservative Democratic-Republican Party of the 1790s. The first contested presidential election was in 1796, and the Democrat-Republican Party nominated the conservative Thomas Jefferson as their first presidential nominee. Party members were anti-federalists who favored state sovereignty, free markets, a decentralized federal government, an originalist interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, and slavery. Pretty conservative. The Republican Party also experienced significant ideological alterations. Founded in 1854 as a liberal counterweight to the conservative Democratic Party, Republicans opposed the expansion of slavery, supported more money for public education, advocated a more liberal immigration policy, and had other liberal political agendas. This is not speculation. You can look it up. And in the KKK episode, I just referenced it. And I just referenced that Republicans were opposed to slavery, Democrats were in favor of it. I didn't editorialize on it. It was just kind of a side note. I just didn't want people to be confused. Like, why would this party support that and this other party support whatever? I just referenced that it happened. Well, so anyway, I think this guy is confused. And I tweet back just to clarify. I say, horseshit? It's history. Dems used to be conservative. Republicans used to be liberal. And again, I don't understand how this is a point of contention. It's just like saying, pizza is generally round and a sandwich is generally bread with meat inside. Like, what is there to fucking argue? Well, this guy goes a little nuts, and he tweets several times. First tweet says, "No, lies via 60s and Nixon's South Strat only could win by appealing to racist Southern Dems. Reps did well before. In 1928, 47%, 1952/1956. Second tweet, got about 6 states after Brown v. Board, Ed, and enforcing integration. More. Switch D to R, 1964, over Civil Rights Act equals only 1D out of 21. Third tweet. Those 20 seats went Republican 20 plus years later. More. Southern Strat allowed Republicans to keep South. Nixon lost. Clinton, Carter swept up. Fourth tweet. Reps didn't have a congressional majority until 1994, 30 years after Civil Rights Act. If Southern rednecks left Democrats because racism and Civil Rights Act. Fifth tweet. Why the shit would they wait 30 years to do so? This is when he gets insulting. You shitty college attending biatch. Nuts on your face. You're welcome. And then a sixth tweet. Love the podcast, smiley face emoticon. What in the fuck? Do you understand what's happening here? He's now throwing stats at me that may or may not be true. I didn't bother looking them up because they're irrelevant. He's trying to back up a position in an argument we're not having. like when I talked about Democrats being conservatives and Republicans being liberal, I was referring to the fucking 1860s. Clearly. Not the 1960s. What a strange thing to do, right? That's like, hey, brah, remember when you said you're not a big fan of Walmart? Well, I don't appreciate that, motherfucker. I think Target's great. Target does treat us, they treat their employees very well, asshole. Target is a nice store. They donate a lot of money to worthy causes. They have the right items at the right prices. Nice try, shitting on Target. What? No, I never was even talking about Target. I was talking about Walmart. Yay, all right, buddy. I heard you the first time. Let me throw a little more knowledge your way. You need to get woke, motherfucker. Despite what you just said, Target does offer 401ks for full-time employees. You can get health and dental. They do have a Starbucks in select locations. So take those nuts on your face, biatch. I think you need to take your meds. And I love that the dude throws out some idiotic and aggressive insult, but then adds, "But love the podcast." Do you? Do you? It feels like you just love being an obnoxious kind of pot-stirring asshole. Now, I know you're not supposed to feed the trolls. I know that. But some part of me hopes against all logic and reason. But maybe if I just clarify this point of confusion, he'll realize that he is just confused and be like, "Oh, shit, man, sorry. I misunderstood the argument." So I tweet again. I say, "Great stats. Too bad none apply to your argument. I discussed the ideologies being switched in the 1860s, not the 1960s. Nice try, though." I do realize, by the way, that I was being a little bit of a dick with the nice try, though. But I feel like it was deserved. Well, he comes back with even more nonsense. He goes, "1860s? Sweet shit. That makes your point more convoluted. Is your source the DNC website? You're saying basically Lincoln was a Dem. LOL. Big dog." This is the second tweet. "Big dog, I'm not Republican. I think for myself. Good points from everyone else with eye roll gifts and idiot salvos, too." Sweet fucking Christ. He's so specific with his nonsense and just so aggressive with it that I actually second-guessed myself for a second. I was like, maybe I did get this wrong. So I read numerous articles about the ideology switch, and it just verifies the original reference I had. I actually do remember studying in college as well, apparently my shitty college I went to. So I decide to send him just a link to one of the many, 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 many articles. One of the many articles out there about this, a link and nothing more. Spread a little knowledge to someone who clearly needs. This happened to be a link from livescience.com. I thought they just kind of explained it the quickest. He tweets back, "That's your source? Fuck, dude. Next time, do the inverse search of why do stupid people believe the DNR switch never happened." Second tweet, "The fact you believe this with zero research," I like that, zero research, I don't even know what that means, "but now embrace a plurality of genders, i.e. 2+, smacks of intellectual dishonesty." It's like he just has like an algorithm where they put big words into sentences, but the sentence doesn't actually make sense. And then the third, "I was going to troll your research and quip something semi-funny about cons/liberals, but I see blocking success, but I think he means like cock blocking. But cock blocking success isn't my MO. I think it is. And one of them, and then just kisses. Wow, so many questions. I'll never ask this asshole because I blocked him after this. And more on why I blocked him in just a moment. First, why is the history of a political party's ideology so important to this guy? Again, why does he give a shit what Democrats and Republicans believed in the 19th century? And of all the things, like when he said originally he liked all the episodes until the last one, I had to have made way bigger fuck-ups than that. Which that one's not even a fuck up. It's just like it's like the weirdest thing to become enraged about. It's like getting mad about like the recipe for chocolate cake. You know, somebody telling you that it used to be different. That chocolate cake recipes tended to be different 150 years ago than today, and you just flying off the handle. Just, "No, motherfucker, it tasted exactly the same. It tastes exactly the same." That's bullshit. You start punching walls in your apartment, fucking throwing shit around, kicking tables. Chocolate has always tasted the way I wanted chocolate. Just craziness. And why would he assume that that's the only web article that states what I stated? Like that was the only one I could find. How hard is it for him to Google? He's clearly on the internet a lot. He reminds me of Flat Earther, the kind of person who just like laughs at all of your sources that are rational, acts like anyone with half a brain or acts like anyone with half a brain would just obviously believe the wackadoodle shit they believe. Just bruh, you believe NASA when it comes to the Earth being round? Okay. So let me get this straight. You believe in college-educated scientists. Okay. So you believe physics professors, all right? You believe, okay. All of them? You believe that what every science professor at every college on Earth has thought for decades? Okay, bro. All right. Just keep being a moron. Just keep putting your head in the ground. Right? I'm fucking woke. I believe some shit I read on some dark web conspiracy chat room sites, okay? Now, here's why I blocked this guy. I went to his Twitter handle, and I read his feed, and it's just so much trolling, like almost nothing but. Just a never-ending stream of stuff like, "Haha, shame, 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 pussies," replying to Drudge Report, some say they said. Another one just says, "Keep your Canadian pie hole shut on American politics, and maybe concentrate on MMA," to some Ariel Helwani, whoever that is, and "Fuck this guy," to Bloody Elbow. And another one just, "If Afghans understood they lived in Afghanistan, that will be a start." Just a steady stream of nonsensical hate. Just tweets where you can tell he clearly feels like some frustrated intellectual. Clearly a very uneducated, frustrated intellectual. Sadly, he appears to be too dumb to even understand how dumb he actually is. When you have a job that puts you, what you do in a constant forum for public judgment like I do, you do develop a special hatred for trolls. And I've had it long before this guy. This guy's just one of many. And I don't just get worked up when it's directed at me. Like I can't stand Yelp reviewers who just, constantly leave negative reviews. Like if you're a Yelp reviewer and you've left over 100 reviews, but the average review you leave is less than 3 stars, you're not a discerning critic with a sophisticated palate. You're a spiteful, hateful, just little fuck of a person who clearly takes great pleasure in taking a dump on the efforts of others to actually create something good in the world instead of just shit on other people's efforts. Right? Man, it's like, if you have somebody like this in your personal life, I also wanted to bring this up, because I think these people they're obviously around. If you have somebody like this in your real life, someone who consistently just negatively criticizes and just argumentative with everything you do, and everything, other people do as well, block them in real life. Like, cut them out of your social circle. They're a cancer. They're a tumor with legs. And if you want to, get or stay healthy, you need to cut them out of your social life. Remove them. Let them take their psychological abuse elsewhere. They're not someone whose approval you need or should ever want. They're someone who, when they aren't busy, bringing you down, they're busy on the web trying to bring down the rest of the world. Just some true idiot of the internet. Brah.
Idiots of the internet.
All right, thanks for listening to that little rant. I never want to come down like that on a listener, but that was too much, man. Just what the fuck? Too much of that shit on the web. So many sad, hateful people out there, Luckily, the overwhelming majority of Timesuckers seem to be, like, awesome people. I mean, I keep meeting you at shows. Truly, like, just reinvigorate my faith in humanity. And thanks for all the awesome messages. And you send me, and sorry again, I haven't gotten back to all of them. I really, truly wish I would. I was up till like 5 a.m. last night working on this after 2 shows at the Omaha Funny Bone. Hopefully when the Timesuck app is completed, I can hire a full-time employee, and then with their help and the help of the amazing Timesucker volunteers already volunteering their time out of the goodness of their hearts, I can rearrange my life a little bit to add some balance to it and also get back more consistently and just stay on top of everything. I am trying. I do appreciate it. I know I keep saying that every week, but it's true. I really appreciate the effort you guys make with this. Now let's check in with some awesome Timesuckers in today's Timesucker updates.
Updates? Get your Timesucker updates.
First update comes in from Jake Thomas, who writes, "Greetings, Almighty Suckmaster. In your last podcast about the KKK, you talked about how it was bad to put people into groups and judge them based on stereotypes associated with their groups. I strongly agree with this philosophy. However, where should we draw the line? Right? Is it okay to judge individuals who are in the KKK or neo-Nazis and assume that they are just piles of Bojangles as shit? Or should we understand that some of them may not be evil, just extremely ignorant, and work with them to change their worldviews? This is something that I have really been contemplating in my head and would love to hear your thoughts on. Hail Nimrod, Jake." Well, hail Nimrod, Jake. Yes, wow, God, man, good question. How do we balance tolerance with judgment? I believe in tolerance within reason. I kind of define that by, I'll be tolerant towards you unless you're trying to actively harm me or my family or basically other people, And then I'll become an extremely intolerant motherfucker. Like the KKK, based on a history of violence and murder towards innocent people, do not, in my opinion, deserve much tolerance, right? They deserve public scorn, ridicule, and contempt for their twisted ideals. And if they do act out with violence, they deserve, immediate and extreme punishment. Now, to your point, with the individuals within this group, I do think, you try and reach them initially with some questioning, get them to try and face why they think they're hateful, why they think they're racist. It is good, I think, to make an effort to try and change their minds, because there probably are some good people just who have been manipulated and just allowed themselves to go down a bad path within those groups, But after a while, if they're just shouting back at you with, vile and hate, I think some mockery and disrespect is in order because, they're not acting in a way deserving of respect. So, I don't think they're entitled to it. It's tough. I do have sympathy for people, again, being manipulated into joining up with a hateful agenda. And I don't think they're necessarily evil, but I also think if you consistently don't judge harshly hateful actions, you kind of end up enabling them to continue. You end up kind of silently condoning them. And that's not good. So that's all just my opinion. And I should say that when it comes to judgment and punishment, I am pretty conservative. Sometimes I think I come across as a lot more liberal than I am. I'm very socially liberal in some ways, Like if you want to do something sexually or with drugs, with as a consenting adult with other consenting adults, I'm all for it. But if you want to hurt, rape, molest, kill, well, then you deserve imprisonment and or death, in my opinion. Like take the argument regarding child molesters, man. Many of these people were molested themselves. They were sexualized at an early age, increases the odds they're going to act out sexually with others that same age later. There's evidence that their brain chemistry may be off, predisposing them to molest. You could argue that it's not entirely their fault. Maybe you should try and reach them. Maybe we should try and talk to them and find out what's going on. You could argue that various factors could be taken into account when you're judging them. However, if you molested or harmed, one of my kids, or my wife or something like that, and I was able to get a hold of you before the police did, I'll put a fucking bullet in your head. I would have no moral qualms about that. I would enjoy watching you die in that situation. You cross a line, in my opinion, that puts you into a category of people no longer deserving of tolerance or, frankly, life itself. I think tolerance is a great thing, but I also think that actions have consequences. And in some cases, I believe that consequence is death. And again, that's my opinion. I know I've been on a little bit of the outs on that one my whole life. I've had that one forever. I've thought about it a lot. I just have never changed on it. Okay, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I got a tiny bit of psycho in me. Who knows? But that's how I think about it. Another one is from Kai Carlson. Another update says, "Howdy Dan, just listened to your KKK Timesuck, and it was rough, even as an African American. But I do want to pick a bone on one issue. Earlier this year, my National Guard unit, 11322, or I guess the 11,322nd Military Police Company, was activated to protect property in Charlotte, North Carolina, after several Black Lives Matter riots. I personally have been lucky to have lived a fairly hate-free life, but during those protests, I had never received such racial hate. I had another black male actually call me a coon. I had to provide medical care for several white citizens who were beat bloody for being white and had a weapon drawn on me by a quote-unquote protester. The Black Lives Matter group I ran into was truly a racist and violent organization as much as the KKK. The situations we were placed in left a bad taste in our mouths for that particular group. But enough beating you over the head. I want to commend you on taking such a controversial topic in such a truly open way. I can't think of many people who would come at this with such an open mind. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, man. And sorry you had what sounds like a seriously shitty day at the protest. Man, that's terrible. And numerous other timesuckers also wrote in saying that I kind of let the Black Lives Matter protesters off, way too easy, pointing out that some of them are also, calling for the death of all white people. Well, here's my thoughts on it. I didn't realize that some members of the movement were doing that kind of stuff. Now, when you go to the Black Lives Matter's website, there is zero anti-white rhetoric, zero, as opposed to the KKK, which is quite literally based, pretty much entirely in racism. So I think that the original essence of the Black Lives Matter movement is a beautiful one. It's based in a desire for equality. Unfortunately, some racist assholes have hijacked the movement and twisted it into their own desires for vengeance, and that's despicable. Never okay to want to bring harm, to any and all members of any particular race because, a few members of that race, did something to you. Like you're mad because some white people treated you unfairly. I'm not talking about kindness. I'm talking about like the Black Lives Matter protester. I get that. You should be mad. You should be mad. And if you're going to take it out on someone, take it out on the specific individual and or individuals who wronged you, not on just innocent bystanders. Okay. Now, a great Kurt Cobain update from timesucker Jessica Casillas, who sent in the following message. "Hello, Master Timesucker. The most recent bonus episode was awesome. I again wanted to chime in with an update you had during that episode. Another fellow timesucker had updated you about the trials of being on Ritalin as a child, so I wanted to explain why I agree with him regards to those medications. I'm a pharmacy technician, so while in school we have to learn about all of these medications. What a lot of people don't understand is that all of the ADD and ADHD medications are a derivative of meth itself. It's just a lab-made synthetic of the drug. So, of course, it alters the brain, and to some point, they can have a dependency for it. The other thing I learned in my schooling is that there are 3 categories of people that are not tested on when they do these trials on all FDA-approved medications. 1, children, 2, pregnant women, and 3, geriatrics. So, since we don't test these 3 categories, which we shouldn't, when any drug is prescribed to any of these categories, no one really knows what the pros and cons towards the medications are until in some cases it's too late. Also, when an ADD or ADHD medication is prescribed to a child, the dosing is sadly really based off guesswork since the test studies were done with grown adults. I understand that some people truly have to be on these medications, but not the multitude of children that have been placed on them, and all of these children who were or have been on those medications may have issues since it's basically altered their brain chemistry while still developing. The medical society probably won't know what the actual effects from these drugs are until the people are grown adults, and by then, sadly, it can be too late. I really wish everyone would really do their homework on all medications prescribed to them before they just started taking it, especially if they fall into one of these 3 categories. I understand the benefits of medications, but working in pharmacies, I've also seen the sad detrimental effects medications have as well. So even if a doctor says that it's FDA approved, you can still end up being a possible guinea pig Anyways, hail the almighty Nimrod, bow down to Bojangles, and keep on sucking hard, Master Sucker. Well, good shit, Jessica. So good. And again, that was all in reference to me saying that when Kurt Cobain was blaming his adult drug dependencies on some medication as a kid, that I didn't agree with it based on a study I found. I've had a bunch of people come back, and so I've changed my opinion. Based on all the stuff that's come, a lot of other emails come in. I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong to go along with that. And clearly, it does sound like that really could make you much more likely to be a drug addict when you're older. And also, what a dummy I've been. I just realized I've never researched a single medication I've ever taken, ever. I just take it. That's some lazy shit. I'm the worst when it comes to taking care of my health, my physical health. Oh, man. Need to remedy that. So research your drugs, time suckers. I'm going to start doing that, too. Just, don't take whatever you're handed. I feel like Dr. Steve Brule right now, that great character, Adult Swim, for your health. But seriously, know your drugs. Okay, next update is from Timesucker Vanessa Toner regarding MK Ultra. Hey, Dan, I was listening to the MK Ultra episode tonight and just wanted to give some insight on ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, aka shock therapy. I am bipolar and have lived in a downward spiral for the past 5+ years, literally seeing my life dissolve in front of my eyes. Last year, my mental health doctors found ECT necessary as a last resort. I wanted nothing more than to die and spent all of my time devising ways of accomplishing that. I underwent 14 sessions of ECT at Providence and Spokane, and a year later, I can vouch for its effectiveness. Not as a quick fix, but over time has helped manage my bipolar symptoms. But like you touched on, it most definitely does cause amnesia. Probably 90% of 2016 I have absolutely no recollection of, and only know that certain things even happened by looking at photos and texts on my phone. It is not a miracle cure or just another form of treatment, but as a last resort in terminal cases. I'm very thankful that this form of treatment still exists. It may seem barbaric to shock someone's brain to the point of seizure, but for the folks who genuinely need it, it can literally be a lifesaver. Thank you for all you do, and suck. Hail Nimrod. Hail Nimrod, Vanessa. That was good to hear. So glad you're feeling better. Man, what an ordeal you've been through. Good to know that Dr. Shocky McShockerton is doing some good in the world. A lot more than I realized. And again, shows what I know. I'm learning that if I haven't specifically researched something for one of these episodes, I don't know a lot about it. And there's a lot more I could learn about the things I have researched. So thanks for sharing that. Maybe some other listener hearing about it will look into it if they really, truly need it, and it'll help save their life as well. So hail Nimrod. And finally, last one from Timesucker Taylor Reno. This harkens back to the Nigerian email scam episode a long time ago. It feels topical right now, though, for reasons, again, I'll hit in a second. He says, "Hello, Dan. Currently trying to sell my old car after buying a new one, and I got this potential scam. If you read it, you can see how easily it would be to fall for this. This scammer seems genuine and doesn't even mention the fake website right away. Genius move. I was suspicious after he mentioned that he wanted a VIN report from this specific site. After extensive Googling, I found it was a scam, and I forwarded this email to spam@uce.gov to report it. Please let everyone know to forward any suspicious emails to this address, and watch out if you are selling your car for potential scammers. Not all scams are from Reverend Doctors. Keep on sucking, Taylor." And here's the scam email Taylor received. It says, "To be able to come, see, test, and make a deal for it face-to-face, I need the report so I can pass it to my loan officer and make sure he will allow me to buy it. I need the report because the loan company asked for it. Please go to autosreport.com and get one. Will not make sense for me to get one because I can't reuse it like you can. You will be able to give it to all your potential buyers. Me, on the other hand, if will not be okay, I will give to look for a new vehicle and get a new report. I know it is only $24, but I have to run 5 reports until I find an okay report. Where will I be? If the report will be okay, you can consider it sold. Regards. P.S. If it is about money, I will add the $25 to the final price." So, again, also be very leery if the grammar is insane on emails. That's a tip as well. That's a red flag. But goddamn it, man, those sneaky bastards. So many scams, and I wanted to include this update in this episode because they're scamming people right now regarding Hurricane Harvey. Sending emails. If you get emails, to donate, I wouldn't. Scam-free donation sites are listed in today's episode description, the ones I mentioned earlier. Thanks for all the knowledge, time suckers. Fucking love you guys.
Thanks, time suckers. I needed that.
We all did. All right, that's it, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. If you're hearing this at the very end of it, I hope you're still having one. And if you're in Houston, or the Houston area, our thoughts are with you, and I hope you get much-needed relief very soon and that you're safe. And stay curious. Stay in the cult of the curious, you magnificent bastards. Try not to start shit with strangers. You never know who you're messing with. I need to take my own advice there. Hail Nimrod. Praise Bojangles. And that's it. Keep on sucking.